I'm John Dale. I'm with MediaLinks, and I am chairing the JPEG-XS Activity Group, which has recently been working on JPEG-XS interoperability, file exchange, and review and revision of TR07 and TR08. So that's what I'd like to talk to you about this morning. Got a few points that I want to cover here. We'll go through each one of these. This is a short presentation. We're going to try to keep to about 5 minutes. So the current objective was focused on creating technical recommendations from the VSF similar to TR01, which was done for JPEG 2000, but for JPEG-XS. And in this case, we've created 2 recommendations, TR07, which utilizes MPEG-2TS using SMPTE ST 2022 encapsulation, and then secondly, utilizing SMPTE 211022 encapsulation, and that's the TR08 recommendation. So those are the 2 recommendations. They are both published on the VSF website. Our work within this group is to look at some of the interoperability points and target some file exchange for those. What we did in the TRs is we set up a pretty broad range of formats that could be utilized for the JPEG-XS coding as specific interoperability points. You see there the 3 bullets: typical broadcast 2K formats and frame rates, as well as 422 sampling. But we also expanded this to include 4K and 8K resolutions, and including wide color gamut and HDR interoperability points. And then the last bullet points, we also added some capability sets for multimedia applications, including RGB, 444 sampling, and 8 and 12 bit depth. So a little bit broader than what we've done in the past. The TRs include recommendations for a complete system, including video, audio, and ancillary data, as well as robust transmission. We did, as much of this work is based on standards of other organizations, we did liaise with some of those organizations. And as I mentioned, we've organized a file exchange online workshop within the VSF. So a little bit more about the Liaison and industry standards. Since the initial publication of TR07 and 08, the TR08 reference to IETF RFC payload format, which was in draft, is now RFC 9134. So that has been published as an official IETF document. We did find, as we work through the JPEG-XS work, that there were some requests to the JPEG working group relative to levels and sub-levels. You see in bold there that we've asked for a 1K-1, which is sort of the lowest resolution level, and also a sub-level of 4 bits per pixel, and then also to allow 420 sampling in the high 444.12 level. So those were requested, and those are being added to their documents. And then lastly, we would think that MPEG-2TS is probably one of the oldest video over IP standards, but there always seems to be some lack of clarity in some of the headers and structure there, and we came on some of that as well. So we've looked for some clarifications there. And then lastly, we're trying to coordinate with some of the other groups within the VSF that are working on current activities that could utilize JPEG-XS. So I mentioned that we worked on a file exchange. This has been ongoing. It is just about complete now. We exchanged 1080p and 1080i JPEG-XS encoded streams. Files were posted to a common area, and participants were able to review and analyze the files. The file exchange activity is complete in terms of posted files. There's still a few outstanding file reviews. Input from the reviewers' comments has been considered for the TR revisions, and that's kind of an important point, that we wanted to take the TRs as they are and try to work them and see if there was any issues with the content in the TRs. So further status on the file exchange, we had 8 participants in the TR-08 file exchange, which by the way is really good based on the size of the VSF. So I think that was outstanding. Right now we have about 64% of the posted files reviews. Just some basic comments on what we found. Almost all of the files were capable of being analyzed, so that they had decodable JPEG-XS code streams. So that's really positive, that people were able to use the information and put together compliant JPEG-XS code streams. There were some timestamping inconsistencies, and there were also some header inconsistencies. And those are items we've seen typically in interoperability testing due to some of the reference documents and some of the various understandings of those documents. TR-07 had 6 participants with about 90% of the files reviews completed. So that one we're just about finished with. Most, if not all of the streams were capable of being analyzed and decodable. So that part of it was very good. There were some header inconsistencies relative to the MPEG-2TS layer. What we're working on right now is revisions of TR-08 to address the reference documents and address some of the conflicting input on field frame RTP timestamping. So that's going to be addressed. And then on both TR-07 and 08, there were some header issues and some clarifications needed around both the MPEG and JPEG documents. So that's being addressed as well. So what we'll be seeing is that TR-07 and TR-08 are both going to have a revision 1. Their current versions are published on the VSF website. The draft revisions are based on the input from the file exchange and our liaison with the other standards group. And following the review and completion of the revision 1 drafts, they will be provided to the VSF board and for publication approval and published shortly. And we expect that probably within the next couple of weeks, we will have those revisions published. Next steps for the group, obviously the publication of the revisions. That's our highest priority. And then potentially we could have some additional work. The file exchange was just for the RTP files. So for instance, for TR-08, SMPTE ST 2110-22, we just exchanged the RTP video files. We didn't do any work with SDP files or NMOS, but that could be continued either within the VSF or within NMOS. There could be some potential live interop demos, and then we'll have an update with all of the information from the file exchange at VidTrans. So that concludes my update on the JPEG-XS group. I do want to thank all the participants for this. Have been great participation in this group and a lot of support. So thanks.